to welcome them to the roundtable. Our four panelists, please come onto the stage. And our moderator, Judith from EE Times and EDN Taiwan. So for our audiences who's watching our broadcast online, please say hello. So this is a cinema and roundtable in Tech Taipei. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for staying after a long day. This is the last session. It's Friday afternoon, and so I'm very grateful that you're still here to talk about the latest trend in electronic vehicle. Now, let me introduce the guests. The first, the gentleman that's the furthest away from me. He's from Cree Wolfspeed. He's a senior manager, Tony. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming and participating in this seminar and forum. You have given us great advice, and hopefully you'll be able to contact us if you have further information or questions. And then sitting next to Tony is Chairman of Masterbus, Ting-Fa. Please say hello to our audience. Hello. I'm the chairman of Masterbus, Ting-Fa. Now, Masterbus has been established for over 2 decades. And we have been using diesel originally, but since 2018, we have been producing electronic buses. So if you are interested in the manufacturing electronic buses, we welcome your input. Thank you. I think this is going to be the tycoon that's leading Taiwan in the next decade. Then, Cheng from Phihong Technology. Hello. Well, as I've just said, Phihong has been producing high power for 11 years, and we have some little achievements so far. Now we have running into the 3rd generation and going into the 4th generation. So we'll welcome all your input or advice. I know electronic devices or vehicles or charging stations, these are the star industries in Taiwan. So they need a lot of new talent. Then Professor Chen Bo-Chiuan from National Taipei University of Technology. I do believe that automobiles are rising because of the e-vehicles. And of course, self-driving cars. There will be vendors downstairs. So we have another day tomorrow. If you have something to share with us, we welcome your input. So today here, I know you're all professionals in your field. Of course, if you're interested, feel free to come to National Taipei University and take more classes, maybe even a PhD. Now, it requires a lot of effort, but it will definitely help you to devote your effort into these 2 main domains. We know you're all double E background, so if you need more knowledge or information on e-vehicle or self-driving vehicles, you can go and take classes at the university. And now we're going to talk about the trends of EV. In 2019, we had the first session on the trend of EV, but back then, EV was not as popular as it is today. So we're going to ask Gogorals, and says that, well, we seldom see people driving EVs on the road. But then in October, we held another forum, and it has become increasingly popular amongst the audience. And Honghai has presented an open platform for electronic vehicles because this industry has a very bright future ahead, and we can already see it coming. So in less than 6 months, we held another forum. And today we see that it has become really popular. So in 2021, we hope that more automobile companies will be able to offer electronic vehicles of their own. So these traditional vehicle brands, they are releasing new models, not just Tesla, but they also have other electronic vehicle choices. So I would like to ask our panelists to share with us that the market is right now extremely heated and really popular. What about the infrastructure? Are we ready as an industry if we want to go into full bloom and make all automobiles electronic? What are the challenges that we're still facing? So we're going to ask Tony to speak first. I believe you have some observations from the international market. Well, Wolfspeed has many clients around the world. Well, basically, I do believe the development of electronic vehicles is definitely very important when it comes to infrastructure. So the infrastructure, I do believe after it's built, I think Taiwan has advantages in the integration of interface and has a lot of electronic components and devices. So I do believe Taiwan is also likes to take adventures, is not afraid to being wrong, and like to do experiments. So I do believe that so far, as far as infrastructure goes, I think Taiwan needs to actually complete the building of infrastructure and speed up the process. And then you'll be able to catch up, because compared to other countries, well, the infrastructure in Taiwan is a bit behind. So I think in the next 2 years, Taiwan can just hurry up and catch up to the international market. And how about Masterbus? That's the electronic bus that's really going on the road. So what's your observation on the trend? Well, thank you for giving me the chance to speak here. I do believe that Masterbus has been trying to use electronic buses with fast charging stations because we want to separate our product line with traditional buses, which are charged with trickle chargers. And the development of Masterbus, we have thought about the condition of the market. We cannot use the supply chain in China because if we use the supply chain in China, they will not purchase cars from Taiwan. They'll just simply purchase cars from China. So we are fast charging electronic buses, and then we use supply chains in Taiwan. So after a few years, we have already operated a trail run in Chiayi, and our benchmark was totally operable and achievable. So this mileage per day, we have 72 wattage of electricity, and we can go 170 kilograms per day. And for 120, we can go 350 to 380 kilograms per day. So I think about the government strategy and the markets in Taiwan, we need talents, new talents, because we need these new resources and new talent to join the industry. So we have our last strategy. Right now, I do believe that as long as we have new talents come pouring in, we'll be able to make the industry grow and bloom. So anyone who's interested in the automotive industry, don't be shy. We need you. So the last forum was like 6 months ago, and what have you seen? What's the change and progress within these 6 months? I do believe that the market has been changing drastically because of the government support and because of the drive of the international market. These international automotive brands have been releasing electronic vehicles as well, like BC or Audi or Porsche Titan series. These world-class automobile brands have been offering electronic vehicles as well, and they have great infrastructure, very solid infrastructure. So we need to catch up. So the charging station also grows because of the demand of the market. And Masterbus is already ahead of us, so we are chasing after him. And I do believe that the view of the market has changed drastically. It's a mature market now. And I do believe that within the next 6 months, we'll be able to drive up the sales even more, because when we export automobiles, and they will be able to, just come down the ship, and then you'll be able to drive it on the road. But then with electric vehicles, you still need charging stations. You have to apply for land use from the government, or you need an operator. And these will require more than 3 months or 6 months. So it's very different from traditional automobile market. So I do believe that the number of sales will escalate in the near future.
Yeah, so there are still a few challenges to overcome when it comes to infrastructure. Yeah, many of my previous speakers just talked about infrastructures. And today, let's say if you have a lucky draw and go home with a EV, however, you start to have some worries about this gift. Like the electricity is dropping and you don't have a mounting charging station at home. So these are all the problems you are going to face if you do not have enough infrastructure. So if we want to take this issue to the next level, it's also a part of smart cities. We really have to have a very comprehensive and thorough view on this issue. So these are the problems that we really have to tackle while we are developing EVs in Taiwan. So Taiwan, we have had some previous efforts in developing EVs, even though it didn't really succeed at that time. But we did take that opportunity to cultivate some talent for the future development. And also, it was at that time we have successfully gathered around some partners and also members from the industry to join in. So that previous experience really is very conducive to Taiwan's development in EVs. And just like Tony just mentioned, the development of e-bus and also the platforms for EVs is kind of like the Android system for smartphones. So I think these are all accelerators for the development of EVs. But we need more talent to devote themselves into this industry. And like in the meeting today, I can see some about to graduate from the schools, very young people and also talent. We need your involvement and participation in the future. And to be able to connect with the auto industry, you have to be able to speak the same language, whether you're from the ICT industry or you're from the auto industry. The way for you to cooperate is to speak the same language. So that's something that we really have to take into consideration. So probably the government, we can have some more funding from the government to train talent in that field. Yeah, we have some schools and that have established EV-related centers and also incubation facilities. And I think that's the right direction to go. I hope in the future we can have more talent that will meet the needs of the industry. Yeah, exactly. Even though EE Times, we have most of the subscribers from the ICT industry, a lot of them are engineers, but the EV industry, the auto industry are also in great need of engineers. Yeah, and maybe today we will not give out such a big gift like an EV, maybe next time. Okay, if you have joined us since this morning, you probably have heard what the speaker from Foxconn just said. That the speaker from Foxconn said they have developed a platform, MIH EV Co-Design Alliance platform, so that more people will come join in and we can tackle more challenges in the future. Okay, moving on. If we talk about the development of EV from the perspective of supply chain, what are your thoughts? I want to go to Tony first. What's your take on this kind of collaboration platform? Okay. You have to know that engine cars are totally different from electric cars. Electric cars, this industry is very new to a lot of us. It's a rising star to many of us. So you really have to have the knowledge from different fields. You have to think like you're someone from the traditional auto industry, but however, you also have to have some domain knowledge in ICT. So how to establish the most effective platform? That really is an issue shared with a lot of countries in the world. A lot of countries are doing the same thing. They are developing this kind of collaborative platform. So they want to have more teamwork and also team efforts on the development of EVs. And I think Taiwan actually has its very unique competitive edge, especially when it comes to the ICT industry. We have a very huge and successful ICT industry in Taiwan. We are also very good at systems. And when it comes to applications, Taiwan also has its edge. Like in the past, we had some experiences trying to develop electric cars, even though it didn't really become a success. But we have learned a lot of experiences from that. So this kind of effort and also a dedication into the ICT and also ICT know-hows that really have become Taiwan's advantage compared with other countries that will lay a very good foundation for us to develop EVs in the future. Yes, I agree with Tony. Yes, we all know that ICT industry is very prosperous in Taiwan, but how do we incorporate that kind of knowledge into developing electric cars? So for this, I also want to ask Jeffery your take on it. Yes, it's totally different issues. Traditional cars, traditional engine cars, and EVs, they are totally different things. So used to be you have to gather all these very useful data from a very huge pool so that you can design the body of the car and then you can add on some other electrical components into it. It takes a lot of time and also a lot of effort. I'm from the auto industry. I don't know so much about the technology or the ICT industry. But from the perspective of the industry, I think to develop EVs, you have to have the mindset that you have to incorporate all different kinds of elements. And for my company, Masterbus, we are actually presenting all those already certified or recognized products and also technologies to our clients. We will recommend the most useful and also the elements that our clients need for them to take their development to the next stage. And I also think that our company, Masterbus, could actually be an innovative platform. So all of our partners can take part in this collected efforts. We can together push forward the total development. And Taiwan, of course, we are facing a lot of challenges when it comes to international trade or this kind of trade blocks or agreements or tariffs agreements in the world. And for EVs, for e-bus, especially for bus. If it's for cars, that's probably much more for commercial use. But for bus, it's a part of the public transportation. You have to be very careful. It cannot definitely go wrong when it comes to safety. So you have to be particularly careful. So I have one follow-up question for Jeffery. You have turned diesel buses or this kind of engine buses into electric buses. You are actually having to change your mind from the kind of electrical mechanical mindset into EV mindset. What are the challenges that you have faced? Yeah, for the engine, of course, the fuel is different. Used to be gasoline, but now it's electricity that has to go into your bus or your car. So we really have to think about it from a totally different viewpoint. And from that viewpoint, we have to rethink how to make sure that our buses could be very safe for the passengers. And what are the things that our attention should really go to? So eventually it will go back to safety. That's the most important thing that you have to take into account. It has to be safe, whether it comes to operation or it comes to riding on the road. Okay, Jim, I think you have a lot of opportunities to work with different automakers, right? What's your take on this kind of platform? Yeah, I really have to say that Taiwan is very good in semiconductors. We are accounting for almost more than 70% of chips in the world. We are also very good in information technology. And but the question is whether you can put all these things that we are very good at into one. So here I would like to echo what Jeffery just said. Safety definitely is the key factor when you want to put together different components from different suppliers. How do you make sure that your product abide by the international standard? How do you make sure that your product is totally 100% safe? That's a very high hurdle that you have to cross. So it also has a lot to do with establishment of standards and also related regulations. And there is still a lot left for discussion. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to charging, there are so many different kinds of standards in the market right now.
Yes, I do agree there are international standards on charging stations, but when we're interpreting the design, there might be a difference. That sometimes there is like in a specific time you have to do some achieve some specific mission, but then someone will interpret that you have to accomplish it like before the mission is completed or after the mission is completed. They have different interpretations. And that would actually create a divergence. And that could affect the efficiency of the charging stations. Maybe you're charging and they would stop suddenly. It's not because the standards as discrepancy, it's because we have not covered all the details regarding the charging station, and we will be modifying these regulations. So I do believe like within a year or two, we'll be able to actually refine or modify the entire detail of the standards. So we'll be heading to a smooth start. So the vendors or suppliers in Taiwan, when they are actually setting standards, do you think that there's anything they can do? I do believe that international standards like IC 61851, if you adopt that standard in Taiwan, it would be interpreted differently in Taiwan. And if it's in Europe and in the United States, they'll be translated into a different kind of standard. So you think it's like a language difference, but that kind of difference, when I interpret it, there might be a little difference because I interpret differently. When the users, when they get these charging stations or they get these vehicles, they may get something that is very different from the original standard device. So what do you think, Professor, about the standard setting? About the open platform? Well, as for the open platform, I know a lot of people who's working for the open platform, so I'm not partial to any interested parties. But I think the new open platform has its edge. The new open platform, I do believe that its greatest strength is that Taiwan has a very strong ICT industry. So without this open platform, the suppliers in the automotive industry, they have done amazingly well already. And that will not change because of this open platform. Of course, they may improve and get even better, but the new players into the market, they may require the help from the new open platform because everyone wants to participate in this automotive market, but not all of them has the capacity to achieve the goal. So I think open platform is offering an opportunity to people who may need a little bit of push. Just like Jeffery, they are a supplier. They are already the leading brands. And I do believe that the open platform is giving people different choices, different chances. So as a teacher, I do believe that as opportunities go, the more the merrier. When we talk about electronic vehicles, the key component is the battery, electronics, and management system. So we heard that the president from Foxconn talk about this area, and we are very strong in the electronic parts and devices, but because of the shortage in material, so we have been facing some difficulties. So what's our strength here? Can Jeffrey tell us a little about what you think? Because, you produce your own 3 elements. So to your point of view, for the battery, electronic parts, and the management system, how should we improve and develop? Well, I do believe that Tony said it very well. People who can actually control these 3 components will be able to dominate the market. So traditionally, these 3 is very important, and Taiwan is very strong in the management system. We have some students of Professor Chen's. They're excellent employees. As for the electronics, Taiwan has a lot of advantage in this area, but usually we have devoted them into industrial use, and now we are devoting them into the automotive industry, and we need to adapt the entire process. So I think the responsibility is that there are 3 electronic companies. We are going to actually allow them to export our vehicles. We use electronic devices from Germany, and then we can find some shortcomings within these devices, and that's our strength. We're able to spot the weakness and improve this weakness, and that's our strength. As for battery, I think we're quite weak on battery. As for the PAC and BMS and PAC, I think it's easy to acquire in Taiwan. As for the modules, as to change, respond to the motor. So there are some future challenges, and there are room for improvements. But so far, because we are making buses for public transportation, so safety is our priority, and we have not yet adopted these batteries from Taiwan. But for our next generation buses, we'll take that into consideration. And of course, personnel and talents are very important as well. So the government says we should design a base, but right now, we have not received a clear message from the government yet, so we're still waiting. So the government is still thinking about the future strategy, about the battery cores, whether we should use lithium or not. And we need to build factories for these batteries. So the 4 stages of the battery system should be taken into consideration when we need to produce quality batteries, so that we will be able to prosper in all 3 areas. So Tony, Well, what do you think about these components and local suppliers? I think safety is priority. What we always said is safety is the key to components. You talk about efficiency, you talk about these cost, but safety is the critical component, no matter what we look at. So in Taiwan, in the management, Taiwan has an edge in power management. But as for battery and electronics, I do believe that we will be able to catch up if we continue to improve. We have a very complete data source. So, well, Jeffery told us the history of the development of electronic vehicles and buses. So I hope that through these historical data, we'll be able to improve. I think Taiwan's strength lies in our value of safety and the legacy that we pass on. So, Jim, last year we talked about a similar topic. Do you have anything to add? I do believe that, like with power management and motors, I think we have a very good chance of catching up. For batteries, we're still lagging behind. I know people from the battery factories, but I think they are struggling to survive in Taiwan, and let alone expand and export their batteries to the international market. So I think they are having a very difficult time. So I think the government is actually setting standards of the spec of the batteries. So right now we're still, purchasing batteries from other countries. So I think we might have a stricter regulation on the specs of the batteries. So either about the temperature, about the circuit, we will have more detailed regulation. And I think the stricter the regulation, the better for people in Taiwan. So I think charging station safety is also very important. Because yes, that's our strength. So I think safety is definitely not an issue for us right now. We have already taken that into consideration. So I think you can feel safe to use our product. But charging stations, it's not a part of the vehicle, right? But vehicles or automobiles, they have people sitting inside. So if it's not safe, it can cause great damage. So you must be very careful when you are manufacturing parts that's installed inside the car. So I do believe that whether you talk about batteries or motors or power management, but I do believe that we must definitely always put safety first. Well, as university, when you talk about talent cultivation, what do you think? What do you think is the priority, or what's the focal point that we must focus on? I think many universities in Taiwan have departments focusing on these three components. But I think that in the past, we have not really valued the construction of motors, because the car motors, they have different kind of standards and specs that needs to be taken into consideration. And right now, we're still developing in this area. So we must find a breakthrough through a lot of research and trial. But overall, I do believe that we have key players in all three areas. Then must, of course, start from material and then components. But then we have to talk about the added value. As for these three, these batteries and motors and power management, we must talk about integration of the interface. So people tend to be more preserved when facing these areas. But suppliers in Taiwan, I think they have already done a very good job. So how can we take this to the next step and improve the efficiency and the accuracy of these components and the capacity of the battery? I do believe that cost would really become a deciding factor of the batteries, because a lot of people, when we may purchase batteries from China, and because it's a better bargain. So I think that if we have really good quality batteries and we can really achieve costs down and with really good quality, we may have a chance to catch up. Of course, we have to invest in the research and development of all these three areas. Of course, we must think about this. Do you want a product or do you want an industry? If you want an industry, the battery industry, you have battery cores. You must make some modifications. As university goes, as an academic institution, we have talents in this area. So there is potential, but we need the budget to support the university departments to conduct researches and develop new talents.
Yeah, so we heard you that we really need a lot of this kind of funds. Yeah, definitely. We would love to help the development of any industries. We will try harder to cooperate with the suppliers. And definitely we recognize that batteries out of the three will need the most help from the government. You just need a lot of R&D, a lot of money coming into the development and of batteries. You just have to research on lithium, SiC, all these materials. You have to develop you have to follow up different standards. If you just focus on one, probably in 2 years, it will be eliminated and you're going nowhere doing that. So I think we are really having a really big challenge when it comes to batteries here in Taiwan. We don't really have a battery industry here in Taiwan. We haven't really make battery industry a national industry of Taiwan, as opposed to Korea or Japan. So if we want to sell batteries to automakers from other countries, such as Hyundai from Korea or Toyota from Japan, it would be very, very difficult, to be honest with you. Japan thinks it's in a leading role when it comes to batteries, and Korea thinks it's only second to Japan. And China, they have so many different players in the battery industry. So they all have different competitive edges. So if you say that Taiwan wants to catch up with them, I would say it's very, very difficult. Okay, and Professor Chen just said that cost effectiveness is very important, is a key for the boss to decide whether he or she wants to develop a business, a specific business or not. So my next question is that how do you incorporate your experiences of ICT into the development of EVs in terms of operation, in terms of industrial cooperation. Yeah, so I would like to go to Tony first. Let's say some ICT companies from Taiwan would like to set their foot in the EV industry. What is it that you have to do? Okay, according to my experiences, you just have to change your mindset. You just have to position yourself as a car maker, as a player in the car industry, because the car industry has a very long history. There are so many different standards and also specs in the industry. Probably those are not the specs or standards that you have to follow, but you have to know them. You have to understand what they mean. So, of course, if you say that, if you mention Taiwan's ICT industry, definitely we all know that it's doing very well, but it's another thing whether they can become a successful maybe car companies or auto players. There will be another thing that would take a lot more efforts. So back to EVs again, safety is still the most important thing. In Europe or in the US, they have put into a lot of time and also efforts into making sure that EVs are very safe. So if you ask me how Taiwan's ICT companies can also claim a place in the vehicle industry, they really have to change how they see things, how they think of something. So, but it's rather difficult for Taiwan's ICT companies to really reach out to automakers, right, in the world. Yeah, definitely. So I want to reiterate what I just said. What I mean by you have to think of yourself as a car maker is that you have to take in some concepts or car makers' philosophy into your operation system. So, Jim, what's your take on this? Are Taiwan's ICT companies or players ready for this challenge? Yeah, I probably have a different take on this question. Of course, Taiwanese companies, ICT companies are doing very well in the world, but it's a different world when it comes to cars. They have their own specifications, they have their own standards. Like there are VCUs, there are auto electric systems in an electric car. When it comes to all these different electric systems, there are also many, many different standards following these systems. So can you understand all of them? Or if you want to put them together, do you know how efficient they're going to be? Do you know how effective they're going to be? And do you know the regulations and also the standards that you have to abide by? Yeah, those are the questions that you have to take into consideration. And also the costs of following or abiding by these standards, or you have to you have to establish the standards for your products. It costs a lot of money, probably up to 400,000 US dollars. It's very expensive. It takes a lot of money. Yeah, even though Taiwanese people are very proud and thinking that our industry, ICT industry, is doing very well in the world, but when it comes to the question whether they can transition into the car industry, that will be another dimension. I have to be honest with you. We really have to take into account many different international standards and also specs. Yeah, so I want to go to Jeffery for this one too. You kind of represent the traditional car industry. here in Taiwan. So when you're doing this kind of transformation, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced? Yeah, I think many of the players in the industry are very protective about what they have achieved, about what they have had so far. So how do you really upgrade an operation system in this kind of context? It's very difficult. I can just tell you that our system so far is not complete yet. It's not the most comprehensive one yet. We still have a few missing puzzles. Yeah, we're still yet to find this kind of a very comprehensive and also holistic system or solution. So I think it's difficult for you to really develop something that can facilitate your operation while following the standards. And also, there could be a lot of suppliers and also service providers that you have to deal with, different clouds, managing different data. Then that means, of course, if you have more service providers that you're working with, that means you have to pay more money monthly. And of course, Taiwan has a lot of advantages when it comes to different sectors of technology. Those are the things that we can explore in the future. However, if you say how the ICT companies, whether they could transition into successful or to find a place in the car industry, there is still a long way to go. Even for my company, Masterbus, we probably are still in the very early stage. I have to be very frank with you. So we probably have to find more partners in the industry so that we can reach out a little bit more to different countries in the world. And next, I would like to go to Professor Chen. How do we really make this connection between the ICT industry and also the vehicle industry work? Yeah, for sure, you have to have the domain knowledge of vehicles. And we have a lot of this kind of collaboration projects launched by our school to increase our knowledge, professional knowledge in cars. And the ICT companies, we have some companies, they are already in the supply chain. They probably are doing very well. But for newbies, for newcomers, for someone who wants to make it into the industry, how can they find the opportunity? I think they really have to spend a lot of time doing the research. They have to wait until the right opportunity to come up. We probably focus a lot on electronics, consumer electronics before, but actually the profit margins of that kind of a business is very low. We actually want to put into more money into R&D. Maybe you can produce a prototype, you can produce a sample, a very comprehensive one that you can present to your client. That means you have to put into more money into doing that, right? And that also adds on the budget on the stockpiles, right? So you have to make sure that you have enough materials when needed. So I have to say that ICT industry speed is everything, but for the vehicle, for car industry, you have to make sure that you have enough materials that you have all the things ready. So you have to go in a much more steadfast way so that you can keep doing your own thing in the industry so that you can sustain your competitive edge in the industry. And before we end the roundtable, we still have some time. I'm wondering, do we have any questions from the audience? Hello. I'm from Hui Company. I have one question for Jeffery. Last year, Guoguang Bus Company has acquired 12 e-buses from Switzerland. We kind of want to know how the 12 buses are doing, how the batteries are doing in terms of how much electricity left in terms of the capacity of batteries. Yeah, we actually give it 2-year times for us to evaluate the capacity of batteries. For 2 years, we will evaluate the SOC capacity of batteries. So, especially for sample cars, we'll give it 3 years time. We'll give it 3 years to make sure that we have all the certifications. And we will also have the real road trial ride for 1 month. So it's on the road for about 11 months. So until December, maybe, we will have another trial. We'll have another formal evaluation whether the performance really meets our need. And we will also evaluate how it can relieve the heat. Yeah, because we really play a very important, like a middleman here. So we have to make sure that the buses are working, that the clients will be happy with the performance. And I can tell you, so far, so good. We're happy with it. And in terms of battery capacity, I think that's what we want. Even though it's a bit expensive, but it's good for the environment. We can recycle the waste. It can run for 10 years, so it can store the energy, the electricity for 10 years. So I think it's good, not only for the environment, but also for the consumers. So when it's 12 months time, when it's 1 year time, we are going to gather around all the data. And when we have the data ready, we would also like to share the data with everybody concerned.
One last question, please. I would like to ask Chairman Wu. You talk about the battery area, and you're definitely a lot of countries they have like a national team, and think that's they highlighted the main industry of a country. I would like to ask about the development of the battery industry in Taiwan, and what do you think the government should do to support the industry? What is the help that you need to develop the batteries in Taiwan, and how should we do it? Thank you. I think the battery is company in U.S. is Tesla. Of course, he has the largest port, so that's why he has the largest battery factory. And he has definitely exploited the area to the full potential. Well, when we talk about the battery industries in Taiwan, we don't have the scale and we don't have enough capital for the research and development, and we don't have a line to conduct research and development. So I think we need something, a one-stop chain for the battery industry to really thrive. I think we have definitely devoted a lot of money into this already. We have like 10 billion. And I don't remember how many there's thinking about, investing in the development of battery this year, but it's a lot. And they have already cultivated enough talents for the industry. As for, I don't see the drive, because automotive industries, they use these batteries. But the European automotive companies, they wouldn't purchase battery from Taiwan. And the automobile companies in Asia are from either China or Japan, and they wouldn't use batteries from Taiwan as well. So if we have a harbor that we can export batteries to the rest of the world, we may be able to see a better profit in the battery industry, like Panasonic or Toshiba or other excellent battery factories. We can actually learn from them. And they will be able to sell batteries from the Taiwan factory. I think we should cooperate with these big brands, and that is one way to go. Of course, we'll be investing a lot of money, but losing money. We need this capital. We need sufficient backup for us to continue investing in the company, in the industry. We have actually tripped twice already, and we fell heavily as a battery industry. So, but maybe one day it will happen. We'll be able to establish a battery factory in Taiwan. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Master Wu. Well, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Professor Cheng. And thank you all for coming here today or watching us online. Well, Tech Taiwan will continue to act as a platform so that we will be able to share the insight experience in the trend of technology in Taiwan. Thank you.